today, so.
Is what it is, I guess. You know, can't please everyone, but
Yeah. Yeah. No, they voiced other concerns about a fence not being there, and that got
Oh.
incorporated into the project. So,
yeah, I heard about that too. No offense.
Yeah. But there will be, so it'll be nice. It's just too hard to water, like it's gonna, so.
Yeah, I heard about that too. No offense.
Yeah. Oh,
But
they're on
somebody,
loop, so.
somebody has talked to her. I mean,
It's just too hard to water, like it's gonna, so.
yeah, I heard about that too. No offense.
Yeah. Oh,
But
Okay.
so.
somebody has talked to her. I mean,
It's just too hard to water, like it's gonna.
what's that, Denise?
I had to mute her.
Oh, okay. I was just getting
Sorry,
a
let
bunch,
me.
just getting a bunch of feedback there.
So Denise, I muted you. Because we had a loop with the YouTube. So if you have volume on YouTube, you shut it off. So you need to unmute yourself now.
Okay,
There you go. Sorry.
we are recording and on, so whenever,
Okay. Jeff's just joining, and then I think that's everybody.
and then I'll watch for Gary.
Oh, okay.
What about David?
He's not here yet either.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, anyway.
You ready, Denise?
Yep, I am.
Okay, all right. We'll call this Warren City Council meeting to order. It is August 25th. And we appreciate those of you that joined us tonight, being part of that. And to start off with, we'd like to ask Kai if he'd lead us in the pledge. And we'll have Jeffrey offer an opening ceremony for us.
Okay, let me share screen here. Can you all see the,
Yes,
is it full screen?
yes.
Okay. Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for this beautiful August evening to be able to meet together as a Morgan City Council meeting. And please help us as we are in this meeting, that we'll be able to continue to make the electronics work, that we'll be able to voice opinions and to be able to see and know what each of us need to do for the benefit of this community. We're grateful for the community that we give in. Watch over and protect. Yeah, bless us with the moisture that we need to continue our way of life here in the Morgan Valley. We ask a blessing to be upon those in the military and our first responders and those that are out fighting the wildfires across the West. Protect them and bless them and their loved ones while they're out serving us, that they will know and feel of our support for their efforts. Again, bless us this night, we'll be able to work through and do the things that will be in the interest of the city for the today and for the future. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you to Kai, and thanks also to Jeffrey for our opening ceremonies. Consent agenda, we have 2 sets of meeting minutes and a warrant. As soon as you're ready, I'll entertain a motion to accept those. Dave, you're on mute.
Geez, I mean, you missed all of that, huh? Probably
You
good.
did.
On the minutes of August 11th, page 2, just a small item, a technical item. The resolution 20-19, the roll call vote, and then down at the below that, motion passed unanimously. I mean, just eliminate the word unanimous, and I think we're good.
Appreciate that. Any other items or a motion? Thank you, David.
Yeah, I just had one question on the warrants. We paid for sign replacement. Page 5, solar traffic systems, $4,400. Just curious as to what that was.
Oh, you're on mute.
Pardon?
So, sorry, I was on mute, but I was
Oh.
letting Gary in the meeting at the same time. So those are for sidewalk. So mid-block in front of the middle school, we added some signage and a crosswalk.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Hey, this is Eric. I've got a question on the warrants also. I know what it's for, the probiotic for the sewer lagoons from BioLineus. How's that working out for us? 4,500 bucks and change.
Yeah, it's working well. Jamie is on the call,
Jamie,
and so
here with me.
Jamie, maybe you'd like to answer the.
Yeah, I got some more of that stuff. We've been having some upsets in the lagoons, and history has found that stuff actually helps kind of bring the upset down. And so our ponds ain't nitrifying, and those bugs that we get are nitrifiers, and so they help nitrify the ponds and help brings the numbers down.
Is that a one-shot deal, Jamie, or does it kind of help over the period of the summer?
It's at 60 gallons. You feed about a gallon a day for the first 10 days, and then we go down to about 1/10 of a gallon a day after that. So it takes a few months to go through 60 gallons.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions on the minutes or warrants, or anybody ready for a motion?
Mayor, I'd move that we approve the city council meeting minutes of August 11th with the one minor change with the word unanimous, and the special city council meeting minutes of the same date, and the warrants for
There's a second.
for the proper period. I think it was 8th to that period. August 8th to August 21st.
Second that.
Yeah.
Moved by David, second by Eric, that we pass the city council minutes of August 11th, 2020, and also the special city council meetings of that same date, with the one change in the city council meeting, deleting the word unanimous, and the one set of warrants. And the they specified. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. I can see you voting. Okay, thank you. And opposed? Okay, motion passed unanimously. Thank you. We move on to the next item. We have a presentation. Jamie, would you introduce our presenter, and then we'll turn time over to Mr. Lyon.
Okay, so Dennis Lyon is with HomeServe. We had gotten a letter from the leagues about the partnership the leagues is doing now with HomeServe on warranties for sewer lines and water lines and indoor plumbing. And so we kind of just put a presentation together to bring to the council to see what the thoughts are about maybe some letting the warranties, I guess, be brought into town for those that want to be able to warranty their water and sewer infrastructure and maybe their indoor plumbing. And so Dennis has put a presentation together. He kind of gave the presentation to me. That's probably been a couple weeks ago. And then we would just got it ready for a city council meeting tonight.
Mr. Lyon, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you all having me. Thank you so much, Jamie, and everyone for your time and attention in advance. And the initial question I have is it possible for me to share my screen, or do you all have the presentation available to you?
I've got the slides printed out.
Okay, very good, very good. Yes, so that's what I'll be going through. So you'll all be able to play along at home. So again, my name is Dennis Lyon, and I'm with HomeServe, and we are the providers of the National League of Cities Service Line Warranty Program. And I'm here today basically to discuss the specifics of the program, how it's beneficial to community, how it's beneficial to homeowners as well, and allow you the opportunity to ask questions and be here to answer them on the spot for you. So the National League of Cities Service Line Program is the only service line program that's endorsed by both the National League of Cities as well as the Utah League of Cities and Towns and 17 other state leagues. A little bit about this program. It's been available for 17 years, actually over 17 years now. We are an accredited Better Business Bureau business with an A+ rating. We've had the endorsement of the National League of Cities since 2010, and the the Utah League of Cities and Towns endorsement, I believe, is just a little over 2 years old now. So we've been working with Cameron and the bunch there for a little while. Excuse me. So the reason that our program exists is obviously infrastructure is a challenge all across the country. You can see some information on there. Some of the numbers are pretty staggering. I mean, there's coronavirus information as far as lost revenue and so on, which if you're losing revenue and people have lateral line issues causing additional water loss and so on, that's even more lost revenue than normal at a time when people are even struggling to pay the bills. So you can also see that in 2017, the American Society of Civil Engineers issued an infrastructure report card, drinking water D, wastewater D+. So not real good, not a report card I'd want to bring home. You can see the dollar amounts that they're estimating will be spent over the next 20 years, and it's over $1 trillion. It's pretty staggering to think that amount of money has to be spent on the aging infrastructure across the country. Of course, on a local level, what that means is the aging infrastructure is both problematic for the cities, but also for homeowners, because lateral lines that the homeowners are responsible for, they're subjected to those same elements. The ground shifting, fluctuating temperatures, tree root penetration, and so on. So everything that happens on the public side happens on the private side. The difference is the public can maintain an upgrade. On the private side, homeowners are kind of left behind. They're left to fend for themselves, and it's more of a reactionary thing if they can afford it. So that's where the National League of Cities got involved. They had heard about programs like this, and they wanted to find one that they could make available to cities all across the country, whether you're an NLC member or not. And after all the research and vetting, they selected our program to be the one available that carries the National League of Cities name and endorsement. A few other problems, of course: failed lines, waste thousands of gallons of water, increased costs, environmental hazards, and so on. So there's lots of negatives associated with that. The problem that we help address is that common homeowner misconception that the municipality is responsible for maintenance of those water and sewer lines that are on the homeowner's property. Many homeowners don't realize that it's their responsibility until they have an issue. Typically, then what they do is they call the city. Somebody from the city has to go out to their property and have a look and ultimately deliver that message that this is your responsibility as a homeowner. Next step, they'll typically reach out to their homeowner's insurance provider to find out if they're covered. They'll find out that under standard coverage, that's not included, and now they're stuck. Now they know that this is completely my responsibility. I have to come up with the funds. So what our program does is it reduces wasted time, money, and resources for the city, but it also reduces frustration for the homeowner. And you know, there are a few different things here, but the biggest place that frustration comes from is that financial shock. Currently, actually, I'm sure the number is higher now that since this pandemic has begun, but 62% of Americans say they don't even have $500 set aside to cover the cost of emergency, which is kind of scary if you think about it, because there's not much that you can fix around your home for less than $500 these days. So this is where we come in. So our program is available at absolutely no cost to the city. There are no public funds used, and we administer it completely. So by administer completely, what I mean is we handle the marketing, the billing, the claims, the customer service, and even setting up of local contractors to provide the service once service is needed by a homeowner. There's an optional revenue share for the city that is tied into homeowner participation. However, there's no minimum homeowner participation required for our program to be available. In every community where it is available, what our program functions as is a free public awareness campaign for the city. So it educates residents on their lateral line responsibilities and lets them know that this completely voluntary program is available for them to participate in should they feel like it's something they want to take advantage of. Excuse me. I think I said something that triggered my smart speaker. Sorry about that distraction. So the nice thing about the way our program is structured is everyone is educated about their responsibility, whether they decide to participate in the protection or not. For those who participate, they get the peace of mind of knowing that we're providing them with a one-call solution. So anybody who's ever tried to get a hold of a contractor or contractors to get a quote and then come out and do work, know that that can be quite frustrating. Under our program with our network contracts, this service is now a priority. So when they call us, they reach our call center, which is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So it's here in the United States. It is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year, including holidays. And that's when we dispatch a local licensed contractor to perform the work. It's very important to us to use local licensed contractors for a few reasons. One of them is, of course, they know what permits are necessary. They also know what your city codes are because it's required that all repairs are performed up to code. It's also important in that they're familiar with the community is familiar with them, so there's that trustworthiness. And lastly, but not least important, we pay the contractors directly for the work performed. So the homeowner's not required to come up with the money up front and wait for reimbursement, which is a convenience for them. And it's also an infusion of money into the local economy. Contractors that we work with, we put through a very rigorous vetting process. So we make sure they're licensed, bonded, insured, have all the necessary equipment to do the work, and that they have no open complaints with the Better Business Bureau. And we go a step further then, and we perform background checks and drug screens on the individuals that work for those companies because we take this very seriously. We want city officials to be comfortable with who it is that we're working with in your community. We want homeowners to be comfortable. And lastly, we have a standard of service that we need to be comfortable with who we're working with as well. As far as coverage goes, excuse me, as Jamie mentioned, 3 separate products, external water line coverage, external sewer line coverage, and in-home plumbing coverage. The exterior water and sewer line coverage are set up similarly, so I'll just run through those quickly together. That provides up to $8,500 of coverage per repair incident. So every single time they have an issue, up to $8,500 is available to address that issue. This is for repair or replacement of broken, cracked, and leaking pipes, tree root penetration, frozen external water lines that need to be thawed out, or even just clogs that need to be cleared. And this is from that point of utility connection to that home exterior. So this is that void that exists between where the city responsibility ends and the homeowner responsibility begins. We fill that void. In-home plumbing is up to $3,000 per incident for all water, sewer, and drain lines that are inside the home after the point of entry. This does include lines that are underneath the slab or embedded in the slab. It also includes coverage for clogged toilets. With all of these coverages, there's no annual or lifetime limits on the coverage. There's no deductible. There are no service fees charged to a homeowner when they call us and we dispatch a contractor. And also there's no forms or paperwork that they have to fill out, because once they initiate the call, it's between us and the contractor to get this resolved for that homeowner. They can opt in or out at any time without penalty. So anytime they feel like they want to sign up, they can sign up. Anytime they feel like they don't want to be part of it anymore, they can drop out. There's no penalty for them. Also, no pre-inspection. So when they enroll after a 30-day waiting period, their coverage begins, which makes it very easy for them to understand when it begins and ends. They don't have to wait for somebody to show up and give an inspection, get an all clear, or any of that kind of nonsense. I mentioned the optional revenue share. So the way that works is the city would receive 50 cents per month per each paid warranty agreement. So you could be looking at up to $1.50 per household if they signed up for all three of those products. We accrue that revenue and pay it out once a year in January. There's no stipulation as how those funds have to be used, so it's at your discretion. Just some examples: supplement low-income utility assistance programs if you have that. Donate to a local charity. Use it towards your Utah League of Cities and Towns dues. However you see fit. You also have the option to decline the revenue. If you decline the revenue, we pass that directly on to homeowners who participate by decreasing the price of each product by 50 cents. So it's a direct saving for those homeowners if, as a community, you say, we don't want to participate in that royalty aspect. Our marketing approach is one that is unique, and this explains where the partnership aspect comes into what it is that we do. So again, I want to remind you, there are no public funds that are used, and there's no taxpayer dollars. There's no cost to the city for this. We only market by direct mail, no telemarketers, no door-to-door salespeople. So we're not going to be harassing your homeowners. We're also not going to be overwhelming them with direct mail, because we are limited to 3 mailing campaigns that we do per year. Now, what's important is we would never mail without the city's review and approval of that marketing material before it's sent. So without the partnership and without the city reviewing and approving the letter, it doesn't go to one single homeowner. That marketing letter that we send out, as I explained before, it educates the homeowner on their responsibility, lets them know that this is a voluntary program for them, that all three of the products are separate so they can choose any one or combination they like. Lets them know they can sign up however they like. They can call us, they can go to our website, they can fill out the form and mail it in with self-addressed stamped envelope, whatever they're most comfortable with. And also, it's clearly stating to the homeowner that this is something that is not provided by the city, but it's provided by another company through a partnership with the city. So what we ask for in this partnership is use of the city logo and just a generic signature from the city of on that marketing material. And this accomplishes a few things. One, this is where that transparency comes in. So with the partnership, we're providing that letter to you ahead of time so you can review and approve. It also, maximizes the education of the homeowners. It's in compliance with Utah State Bill 45. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but that passed in May of 2017, and it's actually mentioned in the letter that we, the league endorses and we send out. That says a provider of culinary water should educate homeowners twice a year on their lateral line responsibilities. Well, we do that 3 times a year, and we also offer them a solution, currently, of course. And it creates an economy of scale, and this is something that's really significant. So the economy of scale that's created allows us to offer the best possible benefits at the lowest rates that we can. So typically, the way it works out is, with more people participating, we can provide benefits without service fees and deductibles and those types of things, without homeowners having to reach into their pocket first and wait to be reimbursed and so on. So that's what gives us the ability to provide something that I feel is really of value. juxtapose insurance as an example, where you typically have a $500 or $1,000 deductible for something you're making a claim on. The idea behind that is to dissuade you from making claims on things that would be covered, but they don't want to go to the time and hassle of taking care of for you. So they tell you, hey, $500 or $1,000 comes out of your pocket. If you want to go forward with this, you're going to pay first. So we're able to do those things without that. Just kind of some odds and ends overall as a company. We've got over 750 municipalities and utilities that participate. We currently have a customer base of over 5 million. Just in the last 3 years, we've completed 1.34 million repair jobs and saved customers for $454 million in repair costs in that same time frame. I also always like to mention that 9 out of every 10 customers have recommended our program to friends, family, and neighbors because of the satisfaction that they have with what it is we've done for them. Currently in Utah, we have 14 partners. You can see them all listed, Clarkston being our most recent partner. And over 38,000 Utah residents are currently enrolled. And over the last 3 years, we've paid $5.1 million in repair costs in the state of Utah. And lastly, our promise to every community that we work with is that we will become a trusted steward of your brand and reputation, because it's also our brand and reputation. So we have stake in this, or we have skin in this game as well. That being said, I know that's quite a bit of information packed into that. Are there any questions that any of you have at this time?
So who does the billing?
We do. So that's part of the administration. We bill.
Does it come through the city?
No, it does not.
So Dennis, I think I know the answer, but HomeServe, you're not a non-for-profit entity, is that correct?
Correct.
So that said, I guess I'm having a hard time understanding why your business would involve the city.
So it's the business model program, and to maximize the benefits for the homeowners, it was determined that this is the best way to offer it. So typically what happens with a program like this, there are only a couple of companies, maybe even 2 or 3 now, that do this type of thing. But when homeowners receive that information without any type of involvement from the city, it's perceived as a hoax, as a scam. They're thrown away. The city receives calls saying, what is this? I've never heard of this before. So they have more confidence in investigating when they know that the city and city officials have vetted the program, have looked into it to determine what it's all about. So by building that confidence, they're more likely to look into it, which means when they see the benefits that are offered, they're more likely to participate as well, which benefits everyone, because obviously private infrastructure connects to public infrastructure.
Thank you. I mean, you talk about maybe a couple of other companies doing the same thing. And you know, on our part, we're going to want to make best decisions for our community. It seems like we're being asked to choose between the multiple companies on which one would be the better. And I guess I'm uncomfortable with that. So
if I could elaborate a bit on that. So we don't ask for exclusivity. So any other option that a homeowner wants, they're able to participate in on their own. What we're asking for is a partnership with the community in order to make our program available, as well as proactively educate homeowners as to what those responsibilities are. So if a homeowner, for example, receives our letter, and typically what will happen is they'll call their insurance company to see if they're covered for these types of things. And if they have some type of rider available that they'd rather purchase through their insurance company, they're more than welcome to do so. And actually, Insurance agents are a fan of our program as well because they don't like getting calls from homeowners after the fact asking, am I covered for this broken water line in my front yard, and having to say no.
Um,
I have a, oh,
Go ahead.
Oh, so I have a question. When I'm looking at Exhibit A, it talks about the cost per month,
Okay.
and it says, where it says initially $5.75 a month, or initially $7.75 per month. What does that initially actually mean?
So what that means, there's also a clause in there that allows us with proper notification to do necessary price increases. So by just saying that this is the price, that implicates that it may never change. I started with the company in November of 2016, and there has not been a price increase in the time that I've been with the company. My manager started with the company 3 years before I did. And the only thing that changed in price in the time that she was with the company is the in-home plumbing, because it was a brand new product and it was initially offered at a very low price point and was wildly popular. So they had to do some adjusting there. But with the customer base that we have, our goal is to never have to do some type of a price increase unless, circumstances dictate as such.
Any other questions of the council?
See, currently there's 5 million customers.
Nationwide, yes.
Any further questions?
I guess, right, to ask Jamie, how many issues inside of the city do we have a year that we've got to go, or they've got to come and dig up somebody's yard for sewer or water within the city limits?
It kind of changes every year, but we probably average about a dozen or so where they've got to dig yards up, and a lot of those happen during the winter, the cold months. And that's only for water and sewer, and I don't know anything about like indoor plumbing stuff.
Any further comments? Questions?
One comment, he is right about one thing. Whenever anybody has a lateral that needs being worked on, most of the time, my experience has been a lot of homeowners do think it's the city's responsibility, and that is the first place they call. So, as far as the education piece of it's concerned, I think there's certainly a need for that.
Any further questions? Okay, if not, we'll proceed on the agenda for a minute. And we have this to pass or reject or accept. We'll work on that in just a minute. Going down the next item on the agenda, active agenda. Denise, we have anybody for public comment?
No, I don't have anybody.
Okay, all right. That was item number 3. Okay, with permission of the council, I'd like to change items 4 and 5 around so that we work with resolution 2024 next, and we can take the discussion on the hookup with culinary water after that. Is that okay with the council? Thumbs up? Yes, no? Okay, all right. Let's move to item number 5 then. Item number 5, resolution 20-24. That's a resolution dealing with this home serve product. Now, basically, we've heard the presentation. We've seen some other comments and thoughts from some other folks that have been, sent to you. At this point, we need to, I guess, discuss and ask questions, give our input and thoughts on what we want to do with that resolution. Anybody got some comments or thoughts as far as action we should take on the resolution.
May I ask a question, Mayor?
Sure.
So again, back to your price sheet, okay? So for example, $575 a month for water service line.
Right?
You're saying that this, I'm not suggesting we do this, by the way, but you're saying the city could take 50 cents of that?
That's
Or
what
would
the program allows. That's what the program has.
Or would they, or they would add 50 more cents to that, or would it come out of that $5.75?
It's out of the 575. If you
575.
passed on the revenue, it would be 525 for homeowners.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, maybe a question and directed to Gary, but you know, I can appreciate if you didn't have an answer because we're talking down the road. I guess there's a little bit of concern that to enter into an agreement, is that something that could, because we've set a precedence, if you will, is that something that there would be some or more reason to go along with, say, a second agreement with somebody else, say Farmers Insurance or whoever? I mean, would doing that set any sort of a precedent in that regard, or is that hard to comment on?
Well, you're just reading through the agreement. I'm looking at the agreement right now, and the provisions of the agreement provide for an exclusive license for this company to use the city's logo. So any other city or any other insurance company that does the same thing that came in and wanted to, they could of course sell in Morgan City, but they could not use the city's logo because the city has already allowed an exclusive license to this company to do so. And then, you know, whenever you lend your name to anything, I think the point is that to some degree, you're lending credibility to the entity. They seem like a very upfront entity, one that that appears to, you know, have a good track record. But if you tie your name, if the city ties its name to a commercial business of some sort, then there are those implications of tying your name to the business. If things didn't go right, the city, of course, would be, you are a participant in the advertising and the endorsement of the business. So we don't generally do this. I mean, it's out of the ordinary for us to do this. Generally, we'll endorse, we'll give businesses an opportunity and may say this is a good idea, you know, to our citizens, but there are very few instances that I can think of where we actually allow a private company to use our name for endorsement purposes. That's not to say that it can't be done, because it certainly can. But you know, there is a relationship that you're establishing through this agreement.
Seems to me we're interfering a little bit with free enterprise for whatever reason. I mean, again, just case in point, another company comes along with a better mousetrap. I can appreciate we can move from one contract to the other, but I'm not sure I want to be in that business of picking the one that's the better and the one that's not. And again, I agree there also that this is it probably as good as they come. There's no question there. They've covered all their bases and they've been doing it and they understand the program.
Any other thoughts? Okay. Jeffrey, any thoughts you've got?
There, now am I unmuted? Jeez.
Yep.
Hit the wrong button. You know, I like the concept. I'm kind of like Dave though, of throwing our name behind it, but looks like it may be something that some of our citizens, especially those in older houses that have more established trees, may end up taking advantage of this and really helping them out. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I'm not sure it's not a good idea, but we're putting our Morgan City label on it's a little unnerving.
Eric, any thoughts? or Jeff? Jeff, you're unmuted. Any thoughts, Jeff? Eric?
Yeah, I'm not really in favor of putting our name towards it. I think it is a good deal, you know, for the citizens by far, but I don't feel good about the putting the city logo to it.
Eric, any thoughts?
Yeah, maybe it's my ill preparation, but as we're sitting here discussing this, I had a similar question that somebody asked Jamie of how often this happens a year. And then my next question is maybe my being ill prepared. I would have loved to visit some of my neighbors and people up and down and around me going, would you be even interested in this program? And, you know, asking the question to a few people of the concept. I like the concept, I do. And I'm definitely impressed with the company, but I'm thinking we table it for a bit and let me get my head wrapped around it for a bit and ask some of my neighbors how they feel about it. Just throwing something out there.
That's fine. Now you've all spoke, all weigh in on it. When you give your thoughts first. I'm personally opposed to it for several reasons. One reason I got to the numbers on the sheet and found several things were misrepresented, I felt, on that presentation. Those numbers just do not pencil out if you get into them, dig into them. As far as number of cases, I called one local contractor. He didn't do them all, but he says there's 3, 5, maybe 6, the most he can ever remember in a year. Education-wise, yes, I think we need to do something there, without a doubt. I think we do that on our own, not through a private company. I'm opposed to putting our logo on and selecting a private company, putting our logo on a private company. I'm very opposed to that. In response back from Mr. Lyon, he said that's got to be. He wouldn't any wiggle room on that. I'm opposed to our logo on any private company. When I get a flyer from this company, goes to Dominion, I'm personally offended that they would send that through a company, utility company, to a private individual. So on a personal basis, I'm opposed to it. I don't have a vote, and I can't make the motion, but that at least you know my thoughts after you all had a chance to speak first. I go through the numbers if you want, but the numbers show advertising and show the wow of an advertising approach, not real facts. I checked with my personal homeowners company, and yes, they have a rider, and it is much cheaper than this product. I have not looked at the fine line of both products to see what they cover and don't cover. Whether this product has some stuff that is excluded that won't cover, I don't know the answer to that. I have not looked at the document itself. I did look at my own insurance companies and have got an idea of what it is. It's about a third the price that this product is. And so anyway, I'm not in favor, opposed to those reasons, but I'll let you, the council now can decide if you want to table it for more discussion, if you want to make a motion to accept the resolution, or if you want to do away with the resolution. I'll let the council decide and make a motion. Tony, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
I said, here's my question. So if we vote to not, place our name on this or enter into this agreement, my question is, there's nothing stopping an individual homeowner from on their own signing up with this company. Is that correct?
Mr. Lyon, you're muted. He said, and wait, go ahead, Mr. Lyon. Anybody can sign up for the product.
So the program is only available in communities where we have the partnership, because that's what makes that economy of scale that makes the program work.
That makes sense.
Questions, thoughts?
Mayor, with no other questions, I move that we reject the resolution.
Okay. Dave Van motion to reject resolution 2024. Is there a second to that motion or a substitute motion?
Second.
Okay, motion by David, second by Jeff, that we reject resolution 2024. That's a resolution for home serve marketing agreement between utility service partners, private label, and Morgan City. Further discussion on the motion. Okay, she now proceed to vote. Since it's a resolution vote by roll call vote. Okay, I'll start on the bottom of my screen. David.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
Going around the screen. Jeffrey, you're muted.
Aye. Did I get off mute?
Yep, you're good. Tony
Aye.
and Eric.
Aye.
And motion passed unanimously that resolution 2024 is rejected at this point. If you want to look into further items, further aspects of the program, you're welcome to do that, but that's the decision at this point. Mr. Lyon, thank you for your time. Appreciate your efforts. And like several have said, I think your company does a great job. I think you're well established. I think you do a good job for people. At this point, the sense I get is we're uncomfortable using our logo on your product.
I understand.
At least that's the perception I got listening to the council.
Yeah, that's a very common concern. I understand. You know, we've been around for a while, so should you start noticing that there is a need in the community, I'm certainly happy to revisit with you at any time, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to have presented it to you.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank
You all
you.
have a good night. Thank you.
We do appreciate your time and efforts.
Thank you.
And also Jamie for working with you. Okay, we'll go then to item number 4 on the agenda, which is discussion, application to hook up the Morgan City culinary water system. Terry Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence is with us. Mr. Lawrence is, Jamie, do you want to kind of give us just a brief picture of where Mr. Lawrence is at and the situation as far as your perspective on hooking into culinary city water from a county resident?
Okay, yeah, Mr. Lawrence lives on 100 South, towards the end of town, up there across the street from the Wilkinsons. And he approached me about the possibility of hooking on to the city water supply. And with him being a county resident, he has to go through the county process of getting city water. And so he started doing that application and he contacted Denise to make that application. And I've been just kind of helping him here and there, trying to get that application put together. There is a water line that goes up 100 South. It's a 10-inch going up to Polaris, then goes to 6-inch and then drops down to a 2-inch going all the way up to Harold Lauder's place. And so there is a water line that Mr. Lawrence could attach to.
Thank you. Mr. Lawrence, is there anything you'd like to say? You're on mute. Can you unmute yourself? We can't hear you. You're on mute. Ty, can you unmute him? Or Denise? There you go. Okay. Now, Mr. Lawrence.
You
Go
can
ahead.
hear, you can hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm sure you're aware that I'm hooked up currently to the Fry Hollow spring pipeline that I share with Como Springs. That line was installed back in 1964, which is putting it around 60 years old. So it's aging. It's going to fail at some point, obviously. And, you know, I'm getting to the age where I'll probably have to, you know, sell my home at some point in time. And having a city water hookup would make my home much more marketable. And I think it'd just be an all around better position for me to be in. I don't want to sound negative, but each successive owner of Como Springs seems to be demand more and more of that system, which it just can't deliver. And since I'm at highest elevation, I suffer the worst when it comes to water pressure. And so I think it's time to exit that system and hook on onto the city if you can see your way clear to that. And so that's basically where I'm at. That's why I'm asking to hook on.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Council members, any thoughts you have at this point of that? As let me just explain some of the stuff I'm aware of at least. Jamie has talked with Mr. Lawrence, so has Ty, and so has Denise. They've all had some conversations about it. And I think the letter was sent and in your packet, Jamie put together some potential costs. And then the letter that Denise sent out that Mr. Lawrence had sent this afternoon indicates that he understands those costs and is willing to participate in those costs. I think the question before us is if it's something we want to entertain, to have someone in the county look on the city culinary water. Might add we have some already. Jamie can maybe tell me more about who we have that we don't have it going out towards on the 700 East, up there on the street where the new Thagard development is. We have some past the city limits on that end. We have some going up toward Porterville and past the city limits there. So we have some already. And Jamie and our water structure, price structure also has a fee that is a little bit different than the city residents for those who are in the county. There are some aspects and pieces to it. Mr. Lawrence wouldn't, as Jamie discussed, Mr. Lawrence wouldn't need to extend the city line. He would just need to tie into that city line. Wouldn't need to be extended. It's already extended past the county line now. The fees on that second sheet, if you've already seen those, Mr. Lawrence would be responsible to work with the county in getting the county road cut permit and the county permits and get it hooked up. And then Jamie outlined the fees, and Mr. Lawrence in his letter today indicated he'd be willing to pay those. The one thing that wasn't listed on that sheet that Jamie and Denise sent out, and the one thing that's not on the letter that Mr. Lawrence sent, is the water share. If we want to request some water shares, we typically do that with someone outside the city. That's one piece we may want to add to the discussion if you should decide to accept this. And then in the ordinance, did you get that first page ordinance? It's got 2 or 3 things there as far as the agreements that need to be made. We can discuss those separately if you want. There's a couple things in there. I'll leave that discussion at that point and open it up for council discussion, council questions. Go ahead, please, council.
I'll start out. Terry's a neighbor of mine on 100 South, and knowing his location and that it's a project that makes sense to me. The question I have, and this would be maybe directed to Jamie, is because of the elevation of the street, it raises there. Can we provide adequate water to the spot? In other words, would there be enough pressure without improvements on our part?
Up there is. That used to feed. There used to be the old tank used to sit up there, and so there's a bigger line that goes up to at least Polaris, and then it's that 6-inch and 2-inch. It is a copper and poly service up there. It's not galvanized like it is out on 700 East and going out onto 66. And so we do meet the requirements a lot easier up there on 100 South than we do out kind of on the other ends of town.
How close is it?
Expect a lot of maintenance with that line, it sounds like, down the road.
Yeah, there's been a lot of maintenance done with that line, and it's one of the newer lines, so it's one that we don't have to worry about having to be replaced.
Okay.
Where is the nearest fire hydrant up there, Jamie, on 100 South?
It's right there at Polaris.
Polaris?
There, Polaris. Yeah, there's one up by closer to the building, and there's actually one down by the gates too.
Any idea what the pressure is there?
It's about, last time I checked, and it's been a little while, it's about 60, 65 pounds.
Other questions, thoughts?
So does, Mr. Lawrence,
Yes,
do you have any water rights?
I do. I have a water right for Fry Hollow Spring, and it's combined with Como Springs. I also have a well and obviously a water right for that well too.
I guess just my first thought is if we require residences inside the city to bring with them a water share, or a portion of a water share, whenever they build, it almost seems like it would be fair to require the same thing from Mr. Lawrence as well. That's just kind of my thought on that.
What are the city requirements? For water shares?
Would he be required to meet the secondary obligations, Mayor?
I don't know the answer. I'm not sure there's a secondary line there. If there's not a secondary line there, then no. I don't think there's a secondary line up there.
Well,
If there's not a line there, then the answer that'd be
that's
no.
where the reservoir is the hollow, isn't it, Terry? So the line would come down through there. The
What do you-
secondary water reservoir is the hollow.
The secondary, you're talking about for irrigation purposes?
Yeah,
Is that what you're talking about, the secondary water?
correct.
Yeah.
So
There,
it would-
I believe there is a secondary water line up here.
Yeah, that's where it starts. It would come in front of your street there, in front of your house.
Yeah, there is one there, yes.
Yeah.
In fact, everyone on the other side of the street, Wilkinsons, Lauders, and the Stewarts are all connected to that secondary water line also.
Again, maybe a question for Gary. Where I think we had a good discussion here a couple of meetings ago about the city's ability to require hookups where a county person is not a member of the city. We may not have that ability to require it.
Actually, this is a negotiated situation between the city and Mr. Lawrence. And so it would make sense that he would contribute something towards the capacity of the system. And typically that's one share per I guess, residential acre, isn't that? I think that's it, isn't it, Jamie? One share per residential lot.
Yeah, if it's going to be used for culinary and irrigation uses, it's 1 acre foot for a residential lot.
So is this accessible? Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question? Is this accessible to the secondary system, or is it outside of the Morgan Secondary Water Association?
I don't think that system goes up that far. Because their pumps, the reservoir, I'm not exactly sure that reservoir line comes down right there, but I don't know. I don't know if Mr. Lawrence has accessibility to that or not.
What? I could know, Gary, but I think what triggers our requirement for someone to hook on secondary is if the new construction are going to do a building permit.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I remember the contract written up, is before building permits issued. But this is not a construction building permit situation. I'm not sure it falls into that contract.
Yeah, it's not even it sounds like it's not even in the secondary water area. I think if it were, I think you could make an argument that he ought to connect onto it, but if it's outside of that area, That's a choice for a future date, probably.
Yeah, let me just say that I have no intentions of hooking onto the secondary system. I have no need for it. I don't envision ever having a need for the secondary water system.
So Jamie, so if somebody who was just using culinary water, would we then require a half acre foot?
Half acre foot if it's just for inside use for residential.
Other questions, other thoughts? Yeah. Eric, Jeffrey, other thoughts? What are your thoughts? Oops. Somebody ready to make a motion?
I guess I agree with Gary on this one a little bit. If, you know, it's going to add capacity to our system, I think it would be, again, I think it would be fair to require, in this case, at least a half acre foot to take care of the culinary or inside watering.
That might depend on what he plans on doing as far as outside watering. We didn't ask Mr. Lawrence yet how he's going to water the outside. If he's going to use his culinary city water to water the outside, that changes the game a bit in my mind, whether it's a half or a one. So maybe the question would be, Mr. Lawrence, as far as your outside water, do you plan on still using your well or still using your water from Fry Hollow?
No, I only use my well for outside watering, and that's what I plan on continuing to do.
Okay.
So this city water hookup is only for my household water.
Thank you. Further clarifications or further questions or a motion?
So where this is not an ordinance, does it involve a motion or a resolution?
We need to make a motion whether we're going to allow it to proceed or not. And in my mind, there's still several pieces that need to be worked out. Within the ordinance, it talks about payback agreements. It talks about water availability. It talks about offer and talks about an itemized list. There's several things the ordinance talks about that we haven't necessarily put into writing yet. I think tonight what we need to if my thought is tonight, if the council wants to proceed, would be a motion to effect that to allow Mr. Lawrence to hook on a city culinary water and have Mr. Lawrence and either with Ty or with Jamie or with myself work out the details so it's in accordance with the ordinance. That'd be my thought. Gary, help clarify if I'm off base. Denise, you got you muted.
I think that would be the way to do it. And of course, any official motion that's brought or any official decision that council makes needs to be by resolution or ordinance. So it would be good to draft a resolution permitting him to do that. And then you'll have a permanent record of what was involved and what he was required to do.
I think tonight, if the council's in favor of allowing Mr. Lawrence to hook on to culinary water, I think we make a simple motion. It's on the agenda for discussion decision, which means we can make a motion to proceed if you should decide to, or you can make a motion to not proceed.
Or does it make sense to draft a resolution and then proceed with a resolution?
I think you need to make a motion tonight to let Mr. Lawrence know whether you're in favor of it or not. Yeah. With the idea that the resolution have to be drafted before it becomes official. I think Mr. Lawrence needs some kind of sense of whether we're in favor of him proceeding or not. With the idea that if he doesn't meet the criteria of the resolution, we wouldn't pass the resolution. But I think he needs to know whether either we're in favor or not in favor, so he can proceed to get quotes and bids and those kind of things.
Well, so would the motion, Mayor, then be that we allow him to hook onto the Morgan City culinary water pursuant to those things that are agreed upon or
That would be my thought. Pursuant to those things within the ordinance that can be, agreed upon in resolution format.
That'd be good.
I second Tony's motion.
Good. Right there.
Mayor, Mayor, I will make that motion that we allow Mr. Lawrence to hook on to the Morgan City culinary water pursuant to a discussion and an agreement with city staff, so it would be in compliance with the ordinance. My recommendation would be also that he would surrender a half-acre foot of water to the city in doing so. That makes sense?
Yep. Who's thinking of that?
Yeah, we probably need to add that it would also be in connection with a favorable passing of the resolution.
Okay. Anybody in favor of seconding Tony's motion?
I'll second.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, motion by Tony, second by David, that we go ahead and give Mr. Lawrence permission to hook on the city culinary water system with the staff working out details of the ordinance and come back with those details back in resolution form for the council to pass a future day. I hope that's the intention, the intent of your motion, Tony.
It is. It is.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. Let's start top. Eric.
Aye.
And Tony.
Aye.
Jeffrey.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
And David.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed unanimously. Okay, Mr. Lawrence, we're in favor of you proceeding with that. I don't know whether you want, whether we get together with Ty or with Jamie or Denise, we need to work out the details so that we address the things in the ordinance as you proceed and go forward with that.
Okay, thank you very much, all of you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item is item number 6 on the agenda is discussion, declaration, continued electronic meetings. Denise, with her stalwart ability to keep us on track, we appreciate her very much for the things she does. It brought that back to our attention that we needed to revisit and redo that declaration. In your packet is one that Denise put together, and she does a great job checking with Gary. And we've signed that. So the question for the council tonight is your thoughts on continuing with electronic meetings, whether you want to start meeting in person, what your thoughts are as far as that type of scenario. So I'll just open that up to see what your thoughts are as far as these Zoom meetings, these electronic meetings versus you want to get back together and meet in person. I'd like to hear your thoughts from each one of you so we can decide where to go from here.
Is there an option? Could we have an option to do a hybrid where my thought is one of us is feeling ill, one of us is under the weather a little bit? I mean, I guess we've done that in the past anyway, right? We don't have to have an official declaration if we did a hybrid. Like 2 or 3 of us could be at home on a Zoom call and 2 or 3 of us sitting around the table.
Gary?
As long as you have somebody or a quorum at the anchor location, you can hold an electronic meeting anyway. You can be remote. Any of you can be remote as long as you have an anchor location. The anchor location, really, we have an anchor location because the mayor's in his office and Denise is at the office and Ty's at the office. Isn't that right? Or all 3 of you?
That's correct. Yes.
So you're really doing it, and this is more of a precautionary thing. This determination would allow you to, all of you, be scattered outside of the city hall and none of you be in attendance. So just in case you ever needed to be that way, and it's only good for 30 days.
Ooh.
and then it expires. According to
To
Governor's-
continue, another statement then is signed before the end of the expiration.
Yes.
So I guess enough tonight, what your preference is, what your thoughts are, if you want to continue this style, or if you want to get back and go in person. An answer to Gary's question, Eric, yeah, the answer is, yeah, we could all meet together and a couple could just move electronic. We could do that before, we can still do that if the body chose to. Other thoughts, what's your preference?
I prefer
Continue this style, you want to get back together?
I prefer the Zoom meeting for as long as we can. I still think there's some concern with the virus. I think that helps employees as well as some of the higher risk of us.
Dave's only saying that because he's older.
I said some of us, myself included, high risk.
I guess when I thought about this today, I thought about this for a minute today, and I thought, I don't know about anyone else, but I don't feel, I suppose I feel as threatened and as at risk as I did 3 or 4 months ago, attending a meeting in person. So to me, the risk is not diminished at all. And for that reason, I'm comfortable with the Zoom meetings as well.
You know, I think the school is a little bit of an unknown also. There's maybe some reason to be cautious there.
That was going to be my point. I teach school. I could be infected now. I could be infected tomorrow. I would feel more comfortable to take this 30 days and see how schools, what that's going to do through the community. I think that might be wise to run through this declaration and then maybe make a move.
So Jeffrey, did you say you work in a Petri dish?
Yeah, I've been 5 days with kids. Love every one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, stay home.
Eric? Jeff? What's your thoughts?
I'm fine staying on Zoom meetings, but the thing that's been on my mind a lot lately, and this is a general statement, is I have yet to hear anybody talking about an exit strategy from COVID and the restrictions that are on us. And it just kind of makes me wonder, how long will we be at this? That's a question nobody can answer, but it's been on my mind a lot lately. Is I haven't heard an exit strategy from anybody.
Ty's got the answer.
You answer that, Ty, please.
And I almost made it all the way to city reports before I said my first words in a city council meeting. Till you did that. I almost started being like, could this be real? Like I kept my mouth shut this long, but no, I kind of view it because, you know, the end is unknown, and the approach that we've taken, like with the city offices, is just, we just stayed closed until we could have the appropriate protections in place. So we don't impact the public, or, you know, we have a plexiglass front now with a door, so we're separate. Our employees are not exposed to the general public, but the entire time, the question has been, what are we not accomplishing with the precautions that we've taken? And so far, the answer has been zero. We've been able to keep every line of service functioning. And so you kind of have to flip that coin and say, you know, what's the downside? I mean, it is nice to sit around the same table and that sort of thing, but we accommodate the public. In fact, we probably have more participation now that they're recorded and on YouTube than our meetings had been prior, because before COVID, we didn't record and, you know, the video portion of the meeting. And so I think that's just another way to look at it, is the effectiveness and how you function as a council isn't hindered by this format. So there's, in my mind, there's not a downside to extending it another 30 days and if we have an issue or a topic or a resident or somebody that really feels like it would be better served to meet in person, you have that option. The resolution doesn't preclude you from saying, yeah, we're all gonna show up and do the meeting. So the exit strategy, I'm not sure how you look at that. You just take it day by day, but I think you look at the effectiveness of how you do business. And I think there's a lot of businesses that are trying to figure out what's our new normal, or, do we go back, or hopefully everybody agrees that the masks go away, but I don't know that the days of having cash registers without plexiglass ever come back. They're installed now and they get used to it. So if it doesn't hinder the ability to get the work done, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of efficiencies built into the way that we've operated the meetings, screen sharing and that sort of thing's been really helpful to follow along, where in person, we're all looking at a piece of paper saying, what page are you on? What line are we at? And if there's a question, we just screen share it. So I don't know that it's a forever thing, but I think you're on the right track. And if there's not a reason to rush back to around the table, I don't know if the exit strategy is that important.
Ty, we're hearing a lot more right now about vaccines. Just even in the last 7 to 10 days, there's been almost daily news reports. You have to wonder if that's starting to heat up. And it seems to me that's the exit game right there, is the vaccine.
Well,
but we may be into this well into next year.
I have a suspicion that after the presidential election that the virus goes away. or at least the drama about it, right? Like,
keep your
then it
fingers
just goes to
Jeff,
I mean, it's just one of those years. Like, somebody asked me the other day and I said, I don't really think we should be making any important decisions this year. Everything just is so off, and it's an election year to add to it. It's hard to, I don't trust my own judgment sometimes. So just write it out, play a day at a time, and we'll see how it ends up.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Zoom's fine with me.
You okay with that? Okay. All right. Well, appreciate that. We'll put, at this point, the declaration in place. We'll proceed with that for a while. Ty's listed for several updates. We'll let Ty give you some of the updates. And as council, if you think of something you want to ask, feel free to. If you have some updates, we'll give you time for updates afterwards. Ty, go ahead.
Okay, with the council's permission, I'd like to just start with Jamie, since we have Jamie with us, to give the water line update. And then I've also asked him if he wouldn't mind just giving a sewer update as well.
Jamie's
that's
a good guy.
Yeah, and it's nice to have him here. That's why I haven't had to talk until now in the meeting. All the questions kept getting deferred to Jamie, so I was like, we should do this more often.
Okay.
Hey, Jamie.
Water or sewer, it doesn't matter. Just one than the other.
One goes to the other.
Okay, so let's just start. Let's get water taken care of. So water line projects are moving forward. 100 North, the water main's been put down 100 North. City crews are working on putting services over onto the new water line. Both the two cul-de-sacs been put in, and if anybody's noticed, Skyview's moved over to 700 East and is starting to put that water line down that road. I've been working with a lot of the property owners on 700 East over there. A lot of them are grateful for getting a new water line put down that road. It's been needed for a while. And so that project's still moving forward. Some of you might know the Mahogany well went out on us last week. The pump and the motor kind of went out, the thrust bearing that kind of holds the pump and the motor together. The thrust bearing went out and the pump kind of collapsed into the motor, which tends to happen on a submersible pump that's been in the ground for 20 years. And so I did get Nickerson's to come out on last Friday, to pull the pump so we could see what the damage was and to get some new parts ordered. So we ended up having to order a new motor for that and a new pump as well. It's a 5-stage pump. All the bowls were all welded together. And so Nickerson's basically said it would cost twice as much to pull all that apart and rebuild that pump than to buy a 5-stage bowls that are threaded together. They would have been threaded together. It'd have been cheaper for Nickerson's to just rebuild that pump. But with the pump that got put in the ground originally, it would have been costlier for Nickerson's to rebuild it. So we ended up just getting a new pump and a new motor. Those two costs together just for the pump and the motor was $12,500. And so there'll be a couple of pieces of pipe that the pump sits in, that the water that had been sitting in the water for 20 years kind of ate away and had a couple holes. Coupling that was bad, it's going to have to be replaced. So there's going to be some minor cost added to that, plus the labor to pull and to replace the pump and the motor. So far, we're holding steady on the water tanks. We opened a boundary valve on 700 East to allow some of the water in from town to help kind of keep the North Morgan, Robinson, and Mahogany tanks a little fuller, especially since now we are down a well. And so far, for the past few days, we've done all right, holding steady and keeping the tanks at a pretty 3/4 to full. So we're not got any, don't have to do any water restrictions at this point in time. And hopefully we can get the well back up and running. But by that time, I think we'll probably be pretty much out of the irrigation season or getting close to the end of the irrigation season. So that's what I have on water. Any questions on the water side before I move?
Jamie, is that pump over on 700 East?
Yeah, the one right below North Morgan Cemetery.
Yep.
That's the one that got put in with that SID.
Right.
So, yep. Any other questions? Okay, so moving
Steve's
over.
got
To,
one.
oh, sorry.
Dave's
Go ahead.
Dave's on mute.
He's on mute.
I'm sorry, Jamie. The new pump, will that be a threaded arrangement?
Yes, yes, I did get the threaded pump for that, so that
Easier to repair then.
easier to repair when it has problems.
Thank you.
Okay, moving over to sewer. So sewer plant's been doing really well. We've had some really good numbers have been coming in really good on the new facility that got put into place. The disinfection, the E. coli's, we've been around 0 the whole time since the new plant went online. So that disinfection system's working out really well. We are still having a little bit of issues with some BOD, and a lot of that's going to be oxygen transfer, and that comes down to the ponds and the amount of aeration that we have. And so we're going to have to increase aeration to those ponds. And so I've been kind of working with Ty, and we've been looking at some undersurface aeration that we're going to kind of start working towards. I can't get any more surface mounts in pond 1. I've already got 6 of those going right now, and they're getting older. Some of those aerators are getting older and they're having to get replaced. And so I think, looking at some undersurface that gives us about 10 times the amount of oxygen transfer is going to be better for those ponds and to kind of buy us some more years from a mechanical plant. Another instant that came up this year is we do operate under a permit. It's called the NPDES permit, the National Pollution Discharge Elimination Systems permit. And so we have to get one of those permit because we discharge our effluent into the Weber River. And so anytime you discharge effluent wastewater into a body of water, it needs to have one of those permits. It's a 5-year permit. Our permit cycles run on the every 5-year mark. So 2015, 2020. And so we are up for permit renewal. The state got us, we went through our paperwork with the state. They did our draft permit. It came back and it pretty much said, well, it's time for mechanical plant because they gave us an ammonia limit of 2.7, which anybody that knows wastewater, you're not going to be able to keep effluent ammonia limits below 2.7. So I went back to the state, sent a letter back to them before they went to public notice, because anytime that permit goes to public notice, its numbers go into concrete and it's hard to get them changed. And so I got the ammonia limit dropped and back to where we only have to record the ammonia limit. That's what we have to do currently. And so we'll be able to do that in our next 5-year permit. We also operate under a 45-65 daily max and weekly max or weekly average numbers for BOD and TSS at 45-65. And I had to reply for that as well. The standard is 85-65. And we ended up being able to keep our 45-65 limit. And we also have a percent of removal of BOD and TSS at 65%. That's in our current permit. And I was able to get that percent removal removed from our next 5-year permit, which is one that we tend to have issues with every now and again. And then the only other big changes in our new permit is that we were going to have to monitor our temperature, our effluent temperature on a 24/7 basis. So that's going to require the installation of an online analyzer for that. And we are going to have to start testing for metals in the effluent wastewater on a quarterly basis and report that annually to the state. So that's kind of some of our changes with the next 5-year permit that we're getting here sometime this fall. So that's kind of my update with the sewer.
Hey, Jamie,
Yeah.
so what's the difference in cost between a submersible aerator and a surface aerator? Or do you know?
Okay, yeah, well, it's a surface aerator, those ones that sit out on the pond, and then an undersurface aerator is actually two blowers that go out and feed a bunch of diffusers that are placed at the bottom of those ponds. And so it's just the two blowers that are going to be sitting outside or out in a building. You have those two blowers, but they just feed a bunch of diffusers out into the ponds. And so that's kind of a package deal there with the blower and the diffusers. But the only thing you really have that goes out is you'd have your blowers that might go out and you might have to replace one of the blowers. Or you might have to go change out the diaphragms out on the diffusers. But it's kind of, they're not apples to oranges in a sense of, a surface aerator to an undersurface aerator, because it's just the diffusers that are out in the pond.
Stupid question. Where's the diffusers located?
Under about 9 feet down.
They are
in
under
wastewater. Yeah.
Okay. They'll
hang from they'll still have a kind of the cable that goes out across the pond, and then they just hang from that cable. So we can still bring them up if there's issues with them, but there's just a set of diffusers that has a weight that just goes down to the bottom of the pond.
Okay. So you have to put a bunch of sinkers on it to get it down to the bottom of the pond.
Yeah, a bunch of sinkers. Probably about a 500-pound concrete weight. Probably not 500-pound, but there's probably about a pretty good concrete weight that sits on the bottom of each one of those diffusers that goes down into the pond.
But it's much more efficient, you say?
Yeah, much more efficient. So those, and you got to look at it from that diffused air going from the bottom of the pond up, instead of trying to shoot it down into the pond, is you got so much more efficient air going up through there that it actually helps kind of break that sludge down and whatnot, to where we have a hard time doing that with that surface aeration.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Jamie, you talk about the work that you've done on maybe getting a reprieve for our next 5-year period. My guess is you can't keep getting those exceptions every period. Do we need to be working in the next 5 years towards a program that would allow those numbers to be in line with what the state wants?
The BOD and the TSS, I've been able to do that twice in a row. I usually can keep that kind of reduction of the 45-65 limits. You just have to apply for that every time. But they've been pretty good at giving me that every time. Getting the percent removal taken off, that's kind of pretty big. And since we now have gotten that taken off, I think we can still get that taken off. It's going to be the total phosphorus that's still going to bite us when it comes to a mechanical plant. But we're still, I think with the new facility, and we brought that down, we have an 8,000 pounds per day or pounds per year on the total phosphorus. We're averaging about 25 to 2,800 right now. We were peaking about 5,000 per year, about 2014, 2015. And over just some of the work that we've done, we've actually brought that down. So that phosphorus number is what's going to push us into mechanical, and kind of the way it looks and with the numbers and the data and stuff, that's probably a good 15 to 20 years out before that's going to push us to that point. That's going to be our determining factor for mechanical.
Okay.
So was dredging the ponds and the headworks, was that what was responsible for those phosphorus numbers coming down?
Yeah. Yep. Because doing that kind of stuff is what helped bring those phosphorus numbers down. We got lucky because when the state was looking at wastewater facilities and trying to determine what your phosphorus loading was going to be, that was one of the things that helped us. Is we were septic at that time and we were so high, and the state took our numbers from that and said, oh, so we're going to give you 8,000. If we had not been in septic mode and stuff like that, we probably only got a 4,000 or 5,000 limit on phosphorus instead of the 8. So it kind of worked in our favor.
It was a good thing.
Yeah, it kind of worked in our favor.
So your assignment, Jamie, is to figure out how to sell that 25 to 3,500 pounds of phosphorus as fertilizer.
Yeah. Yeah. Try to figure that out.
Yeah.
Or maybe we can just put a quarantine on laundry soaps and dish soaps and stuff like
There
that.
you go. You don't let your wife use any of that, right?
Yeah, I don't. We don't. No soaps in our house.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, thanks, Jamie.
Yep.
Unless there's other questions. Sorry, Ray, you're muted.
Is there any other questions? Everybody good? Jamie, thank you. We appreciate the thing you do down there and appreciate the way the system's running. And the scare we got from the state, we appreciate you jumping in. I think Gary helped too. We appreciate you jumping in on that and helping them to realize what the real situation was. So thanks. That could have been a really ugly deal if you hadn't jumped on that and solved that. So thanks to Jamie and Gary for working through that.
Good work.
It was mostly Jamie. I don't remember doing anything that would have even made a difference. So
it's made a huge difference of what it could have been.
Yeah,
that could have been a major train wreck. So thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, that was very good work.
Okay, so I'll just finish my updates then. So just the latest COVID-19, I've already mentioned that we finished the office. We have our lobby hours, 8 to 4, Monday through Thursday, and 8 to 12 on Friday. The other thing is the second tranche of money just got announced that it's gonna get released starting Thursday. So we're gonna get another the same level of funding we got the first time. When it was first sent out, we were told that we weren't going to get the second one unless we spent the first one. We will spend the first one, but I hadn't put that into in the works. I was thinking it wouldn't come until the December timeframe. So anyway, that's I just found that out the other day, so that'll be good. As far as Utopia, kind of related to COVID, is we're now starting to connect all of our city sites so that we can build a intranet, connect all of our sites, and then also operate SCADA systems, and then also put Wi-Fi in various locations in the city for our employees so that they can log in and do their work without having to come back and forth to the office. And so that'll be a really good enhancement. Some efficiencies built into kind of the silver lining of the COVID situation, but we got pricing and most of the areas figured out. So we're going to start making connections. We pay for the connections, and then each site that we add is $7 more a month on our Utopia bill. So it's a really good, it'll be a really good deal on the long term. Code enforcement, I just needed to bring up, we had a complaint the other day about some holiday decorations. So someone already has their Halloween. It's a big skeleton in a front yard. It's almost as tall as the house, but I couldn't see anything in the ordinance that would apply as far as code enforcement. So I just brought that up. I think timing's a hard thing, just because you can't just arbitrarily say 30 days before or after Christmas, for example, because people start doing their Christmas decorations more contingent on the weather, and afterwards they leave the lights on as long as they can, I guess. So I don't plan on addressing that complaint unless council feels differently, or if I'm missing something as far as your interpretation of our code enforcement code. So if you do have something, just contact me directly and we can talk tomorrow or something about that. Or if you're interested, I could give you the address so you can go see it.
Hey, Ty, on code enforcement, maybe a discussion for another day, but this is something that may be coming to us and from a county councilman. At least I got information, but do we have any ordinance on hoarding?
Yeah, so if it's a nuisance or a property, a lot of it has to do with where it's at. But if someone's hoarding and putting it in their garage, or their house is just full of junk, it really becomes a health department issue and not a code enforcement, if that makes sense.
Kind of the
Okay.
rodent situation that kind of when it gets to a level where you start to attract rodents and insects and that type of thing, because one person's junk is another person's treasure. You got to remember that. So
yeah. Oh, Dave's back. He froze there for a minute, David. So
I got kicked out.
oh, did you hear our?
No, I didn't get any of it. Sorry.
Okay,
I can
when
call
you
you later.
froze for a second there, I thought the whole world stopped, but it was just you.
Yeah, it does for me.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, hoarding usually goes hand in hand with other issues, health department. But if it's outside, if it's in the front yard, if it's reasonably viewable, or it contains or it creates a rodent issue or a health and safety issue, then there's some things there. But just the fact that someone's a hoarder, or we know that their house is full of junk, isn't really actionable. At least that's how I approach it. And usually when I go do code enforcement, I just say, is it reasonably viewable, and is it consistent with the neighborhood? So
With kids moving out, I can't get a car in the garage right now.
it becomes a bigger deal in the winter if you
Yeah.
park on the street. So, but Anyway, that's just where we're at. So the last thing I had was just kind of a carbon free.
Still on
Sorry.
code enforcement, Ty.
Okay.
Was it our city guys that came and trimmed the sidewalk all around the north end of Riverside Park, this weed patch? Or did that landowner actually come and clear that sidewalk that had the alfalfa growing out across?
Yeah, landowner did that. Because were you going to ask who put up the sign for Trump? That wasn't us as well.
I was just wondering, but
No,
yeah, it's a lot easier. And I've heard comments from my neighborhood how they appreciate now being able to walk across there.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was just from like a couple of years ago. I haven't had to address it. They just kind of do it on an annual basis now. Every year they make sure they get it cut down. So any other code enforcement? Okay, so carbon free power project. Just so you know, the project management committee, and that's the one that I sit on, and the representatives that are all involved in that project. We really had some intense discussions. I know you all have probably received something from the Taxpayers Association, but irrespective of those concerns, the project management committee is really just has their own concerns with the project. So we voted in our last meeting to extend the deadline to September 30th. So here's the two big risk factors right now that I've been really weighing. Is one is the commitment from the DOE. So it's $1.4 billion. And if that commitment isn't signed first, I don't think that the project management committee is going to be willing to move forward. So regardless of subscription levels, is what I'm saying, is the project management committee still has that ability to end the project or vote not to move forward, or to just say we're not going to move forward until that obligation is met. The last time we went through this, we did an extension of the budget and plan of finance, which helped them renegotiate the contract that they were working with the DOE, but it was supposed to be signed, and last word I got is it's supposed to be signed at the beginning of September. So the project management committee decided to postpone our deadline until the end of September, and I think mostly just to make sure that that gets signed. If it doesn't get signed, I'm not sure that the project management committee is going to allow the project to move forward. The second big concern is on subscription risk. And so we're going to have to monitor that. And I've asked for an analysis. Just my own sense is, if a 720 megawatt facility pencils out at 5.5 cents a kilowatt hour, what does a 6 unit or a 360 megawatt unit do? Because our subscription level's a lot closer to 360 than 720, even with the current, with Logan withdrawing, that was only 7 or 8 megawatts. And Lehigh was, I think they just voted 2. And they weren't in the project initially. They just came in, they were kind of a late arrival, and then they exited the project. But still, we're still, only around that 200 megawatt subscription level with our own membership. And so I'd like to see what the numbers look like if we only built 6 to begin with. And if that makes the prices go way out of control, then that might be another indicator it's not worth the risk on waiting for a lot of people to subscribe at the end of the project. And so we're paying attention to that. I don't have a recommendation at this point. I just wanted to give you an update since the last meeting and let you realize the stuff that you're hearing in the media, we're fully aware of that, and they're taking this pretty serious at the project management committee level unlike I've seen before. And the conversations are getting really frank and open. There's a lot of concern, and we have a weekly meeting. So I'll have another one on Thursday. And by the time, you know, mid-September comes, I'll have a really good handle on what the participants are doing with the project and have a better recommendation. Initially, I thought we would just do it today. Everything was on track, but that DOE agreement didn't get signed and still hasn't been signed. And so that changes the dynamics quite a bit. So,
So Ty, if that agreement were not signed by the end of September, can things be put on hold for another 30 days? What are the alternatives there?
Yeah, it's our project, so we have total control over the way that the project moves forward, or if we all vote to exit the project. But in the past, there hasn't been a lot of frank discussion among the project management committee members. It was more hopeful, like we wanted to lead, right? Like it's hard to go negotiate with the DOE if your membership's not 100% on board and ready to go. And that conversation has changed to where we've put that foot forward. We've extended our own deadline long enough, and you have everything you need in the contract. And so if it's just a matter of this contract not getting signed, I think the project is likely not to move forward. And we have the ability to say, even, or just call timeout on it, right? Like we're not going to approve UAMPS doing any more spending until you know, that end of the agreement comes to fruition. But
until it makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the main thing first. And then the second one is I am really thinking that on the broad level, I don't have a concern that the demand or the need isn't going to be there. I have problems with seeing how someone subscribes at that level, either without becoming a UAMPS member, which those large entities aren't likely to become UAMPS members and own part of the project. And if it's all through purchasing, you know, power sales contracts, then that's not a long-term commitment on that level of a project. And so that's another risk factor for me. So I'd like to explore build it at half the capacity and see what you know, they could still do all their models based on the other one, but if you only build half the facility, I'm not sure what you save on capital costs and that sort of thing. But it's more in line with the size of the subscription level that we currently have. There's a lot more comfort level that way than, you know, building a third of the plant and hoping that someone else picks up the rest of the tab. So anyway, stay tuned, and it's interesting times.
It's good to hear that you're being cautious, but that makes sense. And considering the risk and the uncertainty of it all, keep doing it.
Well, and everybody's evaluating their own circumstances, and that's one thing that's important. You know, Logan and Lehigh, Logan's subscription level was lower, and we're also going to find out at our next meeting who else is planning, if any, on exiting versus, you know, reducing their subscription level. But if it's a viable project, if it's any other project and other people leave the project, it doesn't hurt us because our subscription level means we own a greater percent of a viable project. But right now it's all risk. So we don't want to own more risk than we need to.
Yeah,
but
that's the point. It works both ways. We may not want a bigger percentage of increased costs either.
Right. Well, it doesn't, the numbers are the same, right? So our subscription level is the same and our amount due is the same, even if other people pull out, because it's the spending that they've had incurred up to this point that they would owe. And so they would pay that portion of the project, meaning it doesn't mean we're picking up the tab because someone else
Not for
left
the
the project.
Not for the past, but it seems like for the future we would be.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And that's what we're looking at, and
Yeah.
it's intense conversations, and so
Yeah.
will be interesting to see.
think,
It's a good report. Glad you're taking it cautiously.
I think, I think I read where Logan City Council is, I'm not Logan, excuse me, Lehigh City Council is meeting tonight and voting on it tonight,
Right.
but it looks like they may. It was interesting with Logan, they'd spent, what did I read? They'd already spent 440,000, and if they,
Right.
if they hung in there, they're gonna have to spend another 640,000 or something like that. And read the article on Logan, and they just got kind of concerned about the costs, so.
Logan
Well,
was one of the bigger subscribers, unfortunately. One of the larger ones.
yeah, they were at 7 or 8, and I think Lehigh is
About 2 or 3,
20.
maybe.
No, they're
No,
a lot.
Unless they bought in the last year. Maybe they did.
Yep, they have. So they were late. So the ones that we looked at before, they weren't even in the picture, and then they they upped their subscription on the last round. And
Gotcha.
last time we did our own budget and plan of financing, and I think the recommendation from their power manager is a negative one to their council tonight. So I suspect that their council is going to vote to withdraw.
Well, watch
And
the
they have-
news.
Read the paper.
Yeah, watch the news and believe part of it.
Don't believe any of it.
So anyway, that's just a project update. And if anybody else, wants more information, just reach out. I've tried to keep everybody informed. The big question of base load is still out there, and everyone's going to be kind of in the same situation. But like I said before, that doesn't make this a good project just because the concept's good. We still have to
So Ty,
follow through on it.
if you've got one of these face masks, does that mean you have to be in favor?
No,
Is that backwards?
no, yeah, you don't have to be in favor
Okay.
as long as you don't have one that says Taxpayers Association. You'll be okay. And
All right.
I apologize to be negative, but they can be, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any further questions to Ty or Jamie while you're still here about anything else you want to ask about? Any other question you've had? Go ahead.
Have one, Mayor, okay?
Sure.
I'll go back to where I started before we started tonight. So since we started, I guess Cindy went over and took a picture of the proposed caboose site over there. And so I was not aware of what had been done there today when the individual called and had a complaint on it. So where they've peeled all that grass back, I guess today, what are we just going to put the gravel there as the rock there? Is that the plan, or?
Yeah, so it'll be, so the kind of the issue is that the valves for the sprinkler system are closer to the depot. And when we put in the caboose, we lay the track's coming this week. When we lay the track and all that, it separates everything. Then we're just left with just a grass patch. So the idea is we're going to take it all out, put the caboose in, and then make everything landscaped with rock. It'll be dry scaped, but it'll match everything else. And then under the trees, and we'll go in and put a pad and a picnic table, and that sort of thing. So that, and a fence on the back will get extended so that there's a fence to the end of that area. So it'll still be a public space. It'll just be, matching rock from the caboose and not grass.
Then on the caboose itself, so any idea when that's going to be sandblasted and repainted, or are we going to place it over there before we do that, or?
No, we're gonna move it. So the rails, then the Durbanos are gonna move it, and then it's gonna get sandblasted and painted in place, and then they'll put the rock, come back and finish it off with the rock around it, so that the site has a finished look without having paint and other debris, you know, on the finished rock. Unless, is Jeff still? Yep, Jeff's with us, so maybe he has more insight than me. That's the last kind of I heard on the concept there, Jeff.
Yeah, we'll probably have to put the rock down after they lay the tracks, because we we won't be able to get it rocked with that caboose on there.
Hmm.
So the painters are gonna have to protect that rock
rock?
somehow. They're gonna have to cover it or something.
Okay.
Protect it so you don't get the paint all over it.
Okay, so it goes track, then rock, and the rock will go clear to the end, and then the caboose.
Yes, the whole thing will get rocked, finished rocked, except the one end, and we'll have to come and do that at another time where the trees are. We'll have to remove that later on.
Okay. And I think our guys are saying they're going to they're taking the sod out now. And so if you leave the pile of rock, then our guys can spread it around the trees with our equipment. So.
Okay, we can do that. I didn't know they'd been over there doing that, but yeah, we can leave some rock there for them.
Okay. So hopefully that helps you. I know it's.
Well, it gives me an opportunity to at least answer the question. I was a little bit caught off guard tonight when an individual called and complained about it. So I didn't quite know where we stood.
Okay, I apologize on the concept. We're kind of doing it on site and with the donated labor and time schedules, and so it just worked out better that way than to try and repair sprinkler lines and try and maintain a small patch of grass just around the trees. And so with the it's just going to work out better to have it all rocked. So.
Any other questions? Go ahead, T.
I was just going to say, we'll just have to have faith that it'll look most excellent when it's done.
Okay.
Anything else, anybody?
Ray, I'd just give a quick update on the Planning Commission meeting last Tuesday.
Okay, go ahead.
The mayor, Tony, and I met with the Planning Commission again via Zoom meeting, and here's a few items that were discussed. Ty had put on the agenda the request for proposal, general plan discussion. We talked about that. Most of the discussion, it seemed like, revolved around the technical aspect of it. But nonetheless, Ty asked the Planning Commission to chime in on, be prepared to chime in on the process from their experience. The commission talked a little bit about what they called their, I think he called it, well, some of the other work they were considering, the mixed use in particular, not a lot of discussion. Tony was asked, though, they asked the city what had happened with some of the projects that had been passed up the line to us. And Tony gave a report on 2 or 3 of our subdivisions, the progress that had been taking place, the Pheasant Run and so forth. Ty updated the group on the bridge project. New items that are coming down the road, just to be aware, Daryl Rupp is looking to subdivide. He's considering low density on his property. Doug Whitcliffe's application, we still needed more detail on that. And there was there's a new development with a previously approved or developed subdivision called Vista Villa. It was approved in 2006. I don't guess it never started, but included 23 homes on 8,000 square foot lots, but we weren't sure, they weren't quite sure what the developers' interests were in bringing that forward. Nonetheless, it was felt that the city attorney would need to review anything as they go forward. Miss anything?
You captured it, Dave.
That was good. Appreciate that. Any questions you got of Dave or Tony? Anybody else?
Or Tony?
Any other items from the council? Any other updates? Okay, there's another page in your packets from the Operation Graduation. And they were just a thank you note to the city for our help in sponsoring that activity for the graduating class of 2020. And Denise provided a copy of that in your packet. You've seen that there, so I just want to mention they had extend that thank you to us. Okay. Jeffrey, anything else?
Oh, I'm good.
Tony?
Yeah, real quickly. Ernie called me the other day, Mayor, yesterday or the day before, was wondering about Hometown Christmas, said that they still wanted to participate. I'm talking about the Lions now. Still wanted to participate in the Santa Claus. I told him I wasn't really sure what was going to happen, but I sort of deferred him to the Chamber of Commerce as well. So I'm not sure where that discussion is. So just wanted to let you know that Ernie contacted me about that.
The chamber started that discussion. So it's in the discussion mode to see exactly where they want to go with that.
Right.
And so, yeah, that was great to have Ernie contact them. But it's good to know that the Lions are still interested in doing that piece of it. Thank you.
Yeah, they very much are. So
Okay.
anyway,
Anything else?
no.
Hey, David.
I think we've covered it.
Eric.
you.
I don't have anything this time.
Okay, Jeff.
No, I don't.
Okay. Again, thank all of you for being here, participating. I appreciate your thoughtfulness, the way you think about projects and ideas, and the way you put forth your thoughts and the way you see things ought to happen and the way you make motions and proceed with things. So thank you for all of your efforts and your abilities there. And thank Gary for keeping us on track and keeping me out of jail. And for Denise just make sure all this stuff is done according to the way it ought to be done. Her follow-up is amazing. And with her, Gary, it just helps a lot. Thank you, Denise. And Ty's got lots of stuff on his plate, doing a lot of things. And again, as you can see tonight from his analysis of CFPP, I think he looks at the things for the city with a pretty good perspective on how we ought to go forward with things. So thank you all. And with that, I'll declare this meeting adjourned.
Good night.
Right.